He's all of the rainbows, but none of the rain. He's dry, but he's an alcoholic. He's hosting this train wreck again and again, and he wears a hat. He's Kevin Pollak.
Thank you, Kurt Smith, once again for that ridiculous opening theme music, you maniac. Of course, we continue the contest nonetheless. Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. As always, I am Chat Show. I have two very exciting guests today that I'm unbelievably excited about, and I'm trying to kind of be not gay for them before we get too far into the show. I had an interesting week. I don't know about yourself. There were some machinations going on. We turned 10 shows old last Sunday, and that was the break point between Jason Calcanis of Mahalo Studios and myself, who, when we launched this ridiculous undertaking, we said, you know, let's do 10 and see if we still want to like each other and do it, and if you don't stink at it, you being me. So we sat down, and turns out, at least according to he and I, we're still having a good time. So we're going to keep doing it, of course, but more importantly, we're going to kind of open up the door a little bit and have some other shows in the studio. All right, I'll say it, because I'm trying not to use the words that apply mostly to the world of biz and show. Starting a network here on the Inner Vision. The idea is that this studio is going to be used for other shows other than mine. Out of here right now is This Week in Startups, and I think they're still doing the Best of the YouTube. What do they call that, Dr. Chen?
This Week in YouTube.
This Week in YouTube? It's that original. Here's what I was thinking. I was thinking, why not have a show where a guy just stares at the camera for an hour? Would that be weird? So, as I have asked you, the viewer, to submit theme songs as a contest, to challenge me for 3 degrees of Kevin Pollak. I'm not sure again why Kevin Bacon needs 6, that puss. Tweet 5 for my guests or for myself. All of these contests exist now, you know. But also, in any way, shape, or form that you would like to help build this network, we'd love to hear from you. My name's on the show, but I've insisted from the beginning to be a part of the viral community by inviting you to be as participate as much as possible. Hold on. I want to make sure no one's asking right now. All right. Because they keep saying, why don't you read your own tweet files before you start bringing the guests out? Sorry. So the idea here is that help build the network in any way, shape, or form that you would like, or not. Just putting it out there as I try to do each week. Saw the movie The Up, the Up movie with the balloons and the old man last night. And I want to just give a thumbs up to the Ups without a balloon attached. I really got a kick out of it. Not just that Asner's working. What? I really did enjoy it. I thought it was wildly entertaining, and I enjoyed the 3D aspect as well. Although not a lot of shit came at me, I still felt as though I was experiencing the 3D fun. As several people allegedly in the know are insisting is the future and the next wave. There's going to be a lot more 3D coming. How do you feel about that? Really? So I really like that. I really like that a lot. So there you go. That's kind of the news of the week for this particular hole in your life. This is going to go beyond Kevin Pollak's chat show into the beginnings of an online network featuring other shows and other exciting, not just from the show business world, but from the world of tech and business and literature. And it's just now starting literally as I stare at you. So I'll be chatting a little bit about it each week to keep you in the know. Tweet 5 for my 2 guests. We're going to start with Adam Carolla today. We flipped a coin, and we're going to start with Adam Carolla and finish with Dana Carvey. And now, the first thing you should know is Adam I met briefly when I did his show, and he'll correct me. I don't know that I think we even talked about this on his show. We hadn't really met. It's strange to be in business as long as we both had without crossing paths. So this is one of those cases where I was able to bring someone to the chat show who I don't have a history with, and then the polar opposite of that, of course, my second guest, Dana Carvey, who at the outset of my stand-up career was kind of in the San Francisco area, the guy, and of a similar age, and sort of the one that everyone pointed to saying, you know, that's the guy. So if you want it, that's the guy. You're going to have to, that's the guy. And then we became friends because he was really kind of like, no, I'm not. What are they talking about? So that was kind of cool. And he was a mentor, soon to become a great friend, and has been for a number of years that neither one of us are really interested in discussing. So I'm thrilled that my friend Dana Carvey is here today. You know, when I started this thing, I kind of sent out an email to a handful of people saying, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm not sure what it is or whether you want to come by and be a part of it. I just didn't want to chase down my friends, you know. It was a really kind of a weird thing, fine line, because I had to. In order to get guests, I had to chase down my friends. And a couple of them right away, like Dana, said, yeah, sure, you know, when do you want to do it? So for that reason as well, I want to thank Dana for being here. What else happened a week? Just a lot of recovery from the Cannes Film Festival thing. Still getting over the whole so happy not to be eating French food. My God, put more cheese and sauce in everything if you would. If you get a second, have some more butter. Yeah, In-N-Out, like a fantasy exploding in front of me. That was my moment yesterday. Oh God, In-N-Out. Thank God. All right, so I want your tweet 5s. I'm going to bring out my first guest now. So already get to work on the tweet 5s. I'm going to explain one part of the show in case my guests are not as familiar with this as I need them to be, and that is the Larry King game, one of the games that's been going on for a while with you, and we've got some winners. I looked down to hold up my CD, one of the prizes, but you know, you have to know what it looks like by now. If not, it's a live stand-up CD, and it's a little gift from me to you if you should offer up a Larry King game that we end up doing on the show. During the break, between guests, we will show some of your video Larry King games that you submit to the YouTube channel Capo345 so that we can again include you in the show. The Larry King game, the rules, quite simple, as originally designed by my dear Jamie. You must do a bad Larry King impression. The notion again behind this, now it's everyone. Now it's everyone. Everyone can play the game because you have to do a bad Larry King impression. Then reveal something about yourself on the air as Larry King that no one should really know because let's face it, Larry's 107 and this is going to happen. Bad Larry King impression, reveal something about yourself on the air, and then go to the phones. The name of the city should be funny sounding if possible. Intercourse PA has been used. So when my guests come out, I will, at some point during the interview, ask them to offer up their version of the Larry King game. It's a tradition that started way back when. Did I mention we're 10 weeks old? We're only 10. Please welcome my first guest, Adam Carolla. Adam, I'm very...
Great to be here.
Very stoked. I got to tell you.
Really?
Yeah, well, I didn't go into detail when I was a guest on your show, but now as the host, I feel I can open up a little bit about it.
Can I say this quickly about Larry King?
Sure.
You feel like if you just pulled one of his suspenders back, let it go, every bone in his body would break. There'd just be a pile of ashes with some like Grecian formula and some bad frames just sitting on top of it.
Yeah, and what I love about that notion is that we can't possibly be the only two people who feel this way.
You know the real victim is not Larry, his wife. Because his hot, blonde, ninth wife,
right?
When, you know, Larry said, "Do you want to get married?" She probably went, "Let's see, what's the over under on you? Like 9 months? All right." They're going on like 11 years, he won't die. I mean, listen, I'm sure she loves him.
Right.
But I mean...
Are you?
Okay. she's hot and 38. He's a 79-year-old buzzard, and I thought she just, there's an agreement, an unspoken. Right. My wife and I have the same, which is, this isn't going to go on forever. You'll go. I'll, be banging the pool guy in your mansion, and he's not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, he's more popular now than he was 10 years ago.
Unexplainable. Right? Unexplainable to me. Are you saying that your wife is younger than you, and she's counting on you being the first to go?
It's unspoken, but yeah. I like when he does this. I like when he calls. He was interviewing Madonna, but he calls her Madonna. And her kid is named Lourdes, and he's like, Madonna, let's talk about lords.
Sure. Now, is that, as you're watching Larry King interview Madonna, does that feel like one of the signs of the apocalypse? Do you actually feel that when you're watching something like, because it just seems surreal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I remember him.
Window, it's raining frogs.
Yeah. Because I remember him like a Mutual Radio, and before that he was just this little thing out of Miami or whatever, and then the CNN thing happened. And I remember in the beginning days thinking, nobody really knows who this guy is. This can't possibly last.
Right.
And how long has he been on now? Is it 25 years? Is it like that?
I feel like he has no beginning and no end. He's like, when you get married and the guy tells you the ring symbolizes a unending sphere of
infinity.
It's that way.
The snake that's eating its tail.
Yeah, just bad interviews, but just.
He won't go away. So.
Yeah, it'd be like Paris Hilton. What did you do when you were in the joint? I read the Bible. What was your favorite passage? I don't know. Fair enough. Let's move on.
Oh man,
Honeywood, Montana. You're on the line.
Right?
Yeah.
By the way, it does not count as your Larry King game.
Sorry.
But thanks for keeping with the theme.
Sure.
At one point. Now, in makeup. I was asking. You interrupted my being complimentary.
Oh, go ahead.
So let me get back to that if you don't mind, just for a second. Please. I'm not going to dwell.
Please.
I remember the doctor thing place with the Loveline.
Sure, Loveline.
Yeah, he's doing well.
Yeah.
The doctor. You guys keep in contact?
Yeah. Yeah, we talk all the time.
And so you would consider him one of your pals, and you socialize and that sort of thing? Because you could never tell. It seemed like there was definitely a social relationship going on in terms of being real friends and not just coworkers.
Well, he's a great guy. He has, 9 TV shows about rehab and, 5 about sex addiction and all that. So he's like, he doesn't have a lot of free time, so you can't go golf with the guy, but great guy. And I mean, everyone says, oh, what's Dr. Drew really like? He's exactly how he is on TV or on radio. I mean, it's it's boring, but that's him.
Yeah, that's exactly
great guy. Yeah.
I really didn't care what he was.
Kimmel, asshole, but again, Drew, salt of the earth.
Again, pretty much what you see on the.
Yeah, Jimmy and Drew, both great friends with those guys, and same as they are on the air as they are off the air.
Right. And how did that gig, the Loveline thing, even happen? Because I don't remember reading about it or hearing that story.
The Loveline thing happened. I got in to do K-Rock radio when I met Jimmy. It actually goes before Loveline. There was Jimmy. I was working as a carpenter, and I was working also as a boxing instructor.
And he was on Kevin and Bean.
He was doing sports on Kevin and Bean.
Right.
And I was driving my truck over to deliver a entertainment unit I built because I was a cabinet maker.
Right.
And he was talking to Kevin and Bean, and he was doing the sports. He'd only been there for like 2 months. And he did a story about Bobby McFerrin breaking his leg on the ski slopes.
Wow, that is good
And
news.
he said, now, what kind of black guy is skiing, And Michael, the maintenance man, who's a black man, took umbrage with this, and he kind of rushed into the studio, and they were getting into it on the air, and it turned into one of those on-air things where, we'll have a boxing match, and we'll settle this, in the ring. And so I was working at a place called Bodies in Motion as a boxing instructor, and they said, we're going to need...
What?
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know.
You were building cabinets, and now you're also working...
I taught boxing, and I built cabinets.
And what qualifications did you bring to those fine Bodies in Motion people to get that gig?
I was a Golden Gloves boxer.
See, these are the things I really want to know.
Many years ago, but the guy didn't give a shit about that.
Okay, good.
But he did say, he said,
I don't care that you actually fought, kid.
yeah, he said,
Can you teach?
No, he didn't give a shit about any of that. He said he basically wasn't going to give me a chance to teach. And I said, well, I'm a carpenter too. And I said, I bet you got some stuff here that needs to be fixed up. And he said, yeah, I do. And I said, I'll tell you what, let me fix up your gym. I'll give you a great price. Just let me teach a couple classes, see how it goes. He liked me. I ended up building the gym in Pasadena, and then I taught out of that gym in Pasadena. And I know everyone thinks of me as a big pussy, and they never, like, they you box, you don't know how to box.
Nope, never crossed my mind, the big pussy thing.
But I'll tell you a couple of things. You see, like, do you see this knuckle? You see how, like, screwed up that knuckle is?
In front of me, sure.
And I mean, it looks weird. It's got a big calcification.
It's a nub. It's an official nub.
And you see this, like, weird scarring and surgery and stuff. I see how that palm looks so fucked up, and like this one's kind of normal looking, and this one's indented and has the scars on it.
I'm gonna say sure.
That's can't see, can't read the scars.
Oh, now I can see it a little better.
Yeah. That's from holding the pads. You know the.
Are you serious?
Yeah. That's what I used to do.
Jesus.
But as a carpenter,
you know, you're not going to show me calluses from actually building things. You're going to show me holding the pad.
No, the building stuff was from just holding. Yeah, that was it. So I had to get surgery on my hand from that. So I was
fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I love
you. Want me to shadow box?
No.
I can shadow box.
I will, but I would appreciate if it happened during the break.
I'm going to shadow box. I'm going to do it right now.
Can we go to the wide? And
all right.
Help me out here, Dr. Chen.
Ready?
Let me see it. Let me see it. Let me see it. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
You know what? We're 10 weeks old, and I just want to say that's our first demonstration. Yeah, I'm going to bring Martha Stewart in here and cook next week, but for now, that was the first.
Well, so I'm listening to the radio, and they say we need trainers, and I've always wanted to get into the radio
for Jimmy,
for Jimmy and Michael, the maintenance man, both of them.
Oh wow!
And I don't know Jimmy. He's just doing sports, you know. So I'm like, I really want to get into radio, not get in like physically. I want to see what the studio looked like.
You weren't thinking about being on the air?
Not really, but I just thought, wow, that's good. This would be so cool. Like meet Kevin and Bean and all that kind of stuff. And so I called the radio station and kept bugging them, and eventually I just showed up because they wouldn't call me back. I actually had
always a good idea.
A guy cover my class for me, and I went over there in the morning, and I just waited in the hall, and I got up the elevator, but I couldn't get into the studio. I couldn't get into the building. I mean, the building was open, but the studio was closed. It was like 7 in the morning, and there was a guy who was walking in, and I just said, "Could you tell him there's a boxing trainer, and he's in the hall, and I'll just be waiting here." And Jimmy came down the hall. It could have been Michael, the maintenance man, and then I wouldn't have been sitting here. But it was Jimmy.
Right.
And I said, "Hey man, I'm a boxing trainer," and he said, "Yeah, sure, let's get started." And we got started, and he didn't really want to train that much, and I wanted to talk about comedy, so we just sat around and drank Snapple, and I kept talking to him about. I kept talking to him about radio and how I could get into radio, and at the end of like 3 weeks, he was like, "You're funny." So he got me into radio.
Had you done any performing?
I'd done like sketch and improv and like little stuff, but I never. I was with the Acme Theater and Groundlings and stuff like that, but I couldn't figure out how to make any money.
So you were just taking classes, and
I was just like taking classes and doing some open mics and all that, but I couldn't figure out what to do with myself.
So you grew up in L.A. County proper.
North Hollywood.
Hollywood. Mm-hmm. In and around show business, everywhere you go, you can't avoid it, really.
Right.
And
well, I grew up in North Hollywood, so it was more porn.
All right.
That you couldn't avoid.
Literally couldn't avoid the porn.
Hit you in the face every time, yeah.
Like that's a bad thing.
To get out of the way of the porn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for a guy, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Everywhere you look being porn.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, North Hollywood.
Was there a moment where you thought about that?
The thing that's funny, the thing that's funny about North Hollywood is it has the word Hollywood in it.
Yes.
So people go, oh,
it's quite the misconception.
The glitz and the glamour.
That's right by the Kodak Theater, isn't it? North Hollywood?
I'd open my front door and walk to school, and the paparazzi'd be popping, and the red carpet be going down, and like Puff Daddy'd high five me, and it was North Hollywood was just like any crappy town in the San Fernando Valley or anywhere else. It's sort of, just blue collar, just working class. Hollywood was over the hill.
Yeah.
But North Hollywood, there wasn't anything going on.
Did you ever think they'd call it NoHo?
No. No.
No, you didn't.
Well, North Hollywood, they ended up calling, it turned into NoHo,
Right.
and I ended up building a theater over there, the Acme Theater in NoHo, in the Arts District.
Oh, is that how you
there.
got in there too? This is pretty much how
I would
you
have to
forged
build-
your way into show business.
I got laid a lot that way too. Like I would build
Right.
a closet for a chick or a bunk or a loft or something, and
Stripper pole?
Yeah.
Whatever you could.
Sure.
And then, wow.
That's how I got in. Yeah, that's how I got this.
I'd
got
heard
in
that
on this
about,
show.
yeah, well, you built this table. I didn't
Sure.
want to say anything earlier. But that's how Harrison Ford, did he not kind of, he did some carpentry work for either Spielberg or somebody.
His name comes up
George
a lot.
Lucas.
Yeah.
It was before American Graffiti.
Yeah, before Graffiti and
Yeah.
before Star Wars, obviously. And he's the other guy whose name comes up a lot.
Under From Construction to Show Business?
Yes. I would challenge Harrison Ford in a carpentry competition.
What if I could put something together wherein, just to build a doghouse, that sort of...
Any way you want to do it. Because I get this a lot.
Do you?
Those guys, my brother-in-law's handy, but handy, you don't know the difference between a dado and a finger joint or a dovetail joint.
No,
you
sir.
don't know that
No, sir.
subflooring is 3/4 CDX ply. You don't know nailing schedules on shear wall.
Right.
You don't know shear wall's 1/2 inch.
No, sir.
And if I said, it's you use 8-penny sinkers or 8-penny ring shank nails and do them.
I think you're making it up.
One foot, do it, in the field and 6 inches on the seams. You wouldn't know about that. You wouldn't know about shear anchors or
I think
tension
you're
anchors or
making it
all
up.
thread.
Yeah.
You don't know any of that stuff.
You're about halfway through this
You don't know
list,
what
aren't
a
you?
purlin is or glue lam beam is or any of that is.
I'm sorry, you said glue lamb beam?
Glue lam beams, yeah. Actually, you have some of those above you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's like Ty Pennington came on my radio show, and it's like, oh, he's handy. And I started asking him some questions.
know
He's not
shit.
a carpenter. No, I mean, it's technical shit. It's not like I'm handy. It's
Well, you did put it well. It is technical shit. How much of
Yes.
stuff in your actual home did you construct?
I built quite a bit of I rebuilt my home. It's from the 20s, but I did a lot of it.
Let's start. What if you were to take someone into a room and say, "This is what is the number one room you're most proud of in the house that you built?"
Well, the house was built, but I
understand.
remodeled the house,
Right.
and I built a bar, subterranean bar that's next to the pool, and it has windows going into the pool.
Overlook the pool.
You can look through the bar, through into the pool. Yeah.
Do you mean while people are swimming?
Yes.
They swim past the bar?
Yes, and you can see
Had
them
you seen
through
that
the
in a
pool.
restaurant or a movie? How did that idea come to you?
Once I decided to build the bar underneath the pool, or at least next to the pool, it seemed only logical to have a porthole.
And how'd your wife feel about that?
She stays out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to pretend like we have a good, equitable relationship. I pay for every fucking thing, and I'm a master fucking builder, so fuck off. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Until I fuck something up, get over there and be quiet.
And she's fine with all that?
She's fine because I'm a great builder, and I pay for everything.
Right.
And everything comes out tits, as we say in the business.
As we do like to say. And, all right, so you trained Kimmel to box. Next thing you know, you're on the show with Kimmel, the radio?
Yeah, he says...
Was that I'm just trying to get to the first
to Dr. Drill.
paid professional show business.
$50 a spot, not for about 6 months. So I train him to box for 3 months. He loses the fight. And then he says, you're funny. You should get on the radio. And he says, what do you do? Like, what's your strength? And I said, sit around and shoot the shit,
Wow.
like this. And,
Yeah.
and he said, well, you can't do that. Kevin and Bean already do that. You have to do a carpenter. You have to do a character, which is leading to the carpenter. And I said, I'm not really good at Dana Carvey. He does characters. I don't do characters. And he said, well, you better come up with one.
That's the only reason he agreed to do the show today, by the way, because he knew you didn't do any.
So he said, you better come up with one or you're not going to be on the show. So I came up with Mr. Bertram, the woodshop teacher.
Well, if I could be honest, that whole rant you just did on shit that nobody really knows about construction, that was kind of a character.
Well, that's what happened, which is he said, I said, I'll come up with Mr. Bertram. Mr. Bertram taught remedial wood shop at Louis Pasteur Junior High in Monrovia, California. And he would call up Kevin and Bean on Monday mornings at 7:15, and he would say he's injured himself in the shop over the weekend. But he knows all his kids listen to your crappy morning. They love the rock and roll. They love the Nervosa and the Smashing Dumplings and all that other crap you guys play. And I got some choice words for them. So if you guys could just step aside and let me just use your radio as a sort of intercom to communicate with my kids, because it's all set on their clock alarms. You know, it's all set on their radio clocks. And then I would start yelling at them.
That's fantastic.
Don't mess with my drill index. Stay away from my Miss Makita calendar. We're gonna fire up the Duquesne projector. You're gonna watch blood on the bandsaw, and then you're gonna put your head down on the desk until the rest of the.
How did this not take over the show? How was this not a huge hit?
It did, and then it was a big hit. That's what ended up happening. And then there was one student who was Brad Higginstaller, who was permitted to work on his projects. And I would talk him through it. Like, hey, Brad, listen, I was thinking about that kayak you're building. Let's not go with the butt joint. Let's not go with the rabbit. Let's not go with the dado. And I would just start getting into all this really technical shit with him. And it took off, and everyone really loved it. And no one could figure out if Mr. Bertram was actually a guy, because he knew all the technical shit. And then we would have people call in and ask Mr. Bertram, and they would ask him stuff, and it'd be used.
You could answer all of it.
Coarse thread bugle head drywall screws, or zinc coated whatever, duplex nails or whatever. And I knew all the shit. And people would go insane. Like, they'd go, and they would try to stump me, and they'd go, I'm thinking about buying my husband a table saw, and the guy at the store recommended a good fence for the table saw. And I'd say, Biesemeyer? And she'd go, yes, that's what he said. And then everyone would freak out and go, like, is he for real, or isn't he? And
why is this real construction guy so damn funny? That's probably
maybe that's what it was. But anyway, I did that for about 6 months, and then they started paying me $50 a bit to do it. And Dr. Drew loved Mr. Bertram, so he would listen. And he didn't know me. He just knew Mr. Bertram.
And did he think the character was real? Did he ever share that with you?
He wasn't sure. He just knew he loved Mr. Bertram. And then when they needed a guy to host Loveline on MTV, he just thought, the guy who plays Bertram, maybe he can do it.
That's a pretty crazy thought.
Yeah, that's
no, seriously. In terms of who should be your co-host?
Because he doesn't know anybody.
That guy that did the unbelievably informed construction character.
Yeah.
That's a very unique choice.
It was weird.
You just made him laugh, clearly. That was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
And I was always a big fan of Dr. Drew's. I grew up out here, and I listened to Loveline and K-Rock, you know. So it's like I knew the show from 10 years before, you know. So I felt like I knew Drew, even though...
And that happened while you were doing the Kevin and Bean thing?
I was doing Kevin and Bean, but I was still a carpenter
clearly
at the time.
But I'm just saying, while you're doing Kevin and Bean, you get this call to work with Dr. Drew. Now you're thinking, Jesus, some sort of professional show business career is kind of starting here.
Well, you know, it was funny because they'd finally decided to do Loveline on MTV.
Yeah.
And they needed a host. And I was in New York with Kevin and Bean and with Jimmy Kimmel. And once a year, we would go to New York for the MTV Awards. And like I said, I wasn't getting paid anything. And I was just a humble guy from North Hollywood who'd barely even been on an airplane. But this was awesome because me and Jimmy were like this, and we're going to go out to Little Italy, and we're going to have a time of our lives. And because of the time difference, we didn't have to get up at 4:30 in the morning to do the radio show and all that shit. And it was really exciting. And I got there, and I was there for like 2 days. And they called and they said, come back and audition for Loveline, the TV show on MTV. And I said, that's...
Who called?
William Morris.
You had an agent?
They signed me based on Mr. Bertram.
It's fantastic.
It was. I know the guy who was at William Morris used to go
show.
to the gym and listen to the show, and he loved Mr. Bertram, and everyone loved Mr. Bertram. So he signed me, and I said, I'd been on like 5 auditions. I'd never got one. I was not really an actor. This wasn't going to work out. And they wanted to fly me back to L.A. And I said, look, you're going to fly me back to L.A. I'm going to go in, do the audition. I'm going to suck, and then I'm going to be back in L.A. while Jimmy's eating cannolis in Little Italy for the next 2 weeks. It's not going to work. You know, what are the chances? And then I even said to him, what's Mark DiCarlo doing? Because this is 10, 12 years ago. He's fresh off of Studs, you know. He's affable.
He's perfect.
Italian. He's perfect. He's got a lot of mic time, you know, experience. You know, he's a guy who can run a show.
Why are you messing around with me?
Yeah, get Mark DiCarlo to do it. And they said, come back. So I came back. And we went into a sound stage on Hollywood Center Studios, where we ended up doing Loveline and then The Man Show for a lot of years. And it was like bright, sunny, not a cloud in the sky kind of day. And it was like I think it was like September, and we're in there, and it was like noon, and it was hot. And we went to the sound stage, where it's just dank and dark and cold, and we did a thing. They did fake phone calls, and me and Drew just sitting there on folding chairs and just doing the whole thing. And I thought, wow, I think that went really good. That felt good. And they said, look, if we do this, we're doing it in the next couple days, so I'll let you know. You're going to know by tomorrow whether you get this gig or not. And I was like, holy shit, I think I got the gig. And I was walking out of the sound stage, and it was just pitch black, duvetine everywhere, no windows. Pop open the door, it's high noon, it's just light coming out, my pupils are dilated, but there's a shadowy figure standing in front of me as I popped the door open. I literally ran into Mark DiCarlo. So I never did find out if I said, get Mark DiCarlo, and they went, you know what? Or they had planned on getting him anyway, and then I was like, "Oh shit!" So
let's hire him let's hire you because you have psychic powers as well.
This is it. Yeah. I could have got me or Mistress Cleo.
So how much longer after that did it take, though? Because they said a couple of days. Was it in fact a couple of days?
Yeah, it was.
Because that never happens either, by the way.
No, it was a syndicated show. It was supposed to be syndicated. Wasn't supposed to be on MTV. And we sold it in like 90-something% of the country, and then they pulled the plug last second and went away. And it went away for a year, and then it came back on MTV.
On MTV, right.
Yeah.
We're going to go to twitter.com for the next question. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. You're at Adam Carolla on the Twitter, if anybody wants to follow.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Sure. I guess.
It's not that's a fact. I'm stating a fact here.
Yeah, all right.
All right. You can't confirm or deny? Is that what's happening?
I don't Twitter, but I have a guy who Twitters for me.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, that's something we should share.
Yeah.
Don't bother following you. It's your guy.
Yeah, it's my guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember,
No, but my guy asks me, what do I want to Twitter? And then he conveys it.
You're like
He's
Britney
a conduit.
Spears. You're the
Yeah.
Britney Spears of the Twitter.
Yeah.
Ellen Ewing. No, it's Elaine. It's Elaine Ewing.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure
Elaine
why
Ewing.
I call her Ellen. At Elaine Ewing asks this question. Tell us about hosting the Shakespeare Festival, LA's inaugural Shakespeare kegger at your home. Yeah, I'm going to need more information on that.
Did it last Saturday. There's an organization, my wife got involved with it. They raise money for inner city kids.
Doing Shakespeare.
Yeah, brings Shakespeare to them. A lot of Othellos, not a lot of King Lears, I imagine. But
I'm not sure I understand the point.
I don't either. I don't know anything about Shakespeare. All I know is I got roped into this shit, and we had it at my house, which was in Malibu, and a lot of celebrities showed up and did stand-up, and I'll ask you to do it next year, and we raised $100,000, and
Nice.
Leno was nice enough to come out and do it. And
Shakespeare,
yeah, it was
that
a
part of
kegger.
it was yours.
Yeah.
To raise funds for the actual Shakespeare Festival.
Yeah. So that's what we did. We had a kegger.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's very cool. Did you do stand-up?
I did about that much. Yeah.
After the Jimmy Kimmel thing?
No.
Before
Before then. Yeah.
And what was your? Why did you do just a little? You didn't have the taste for it?
You know, it was weird. I always thought, and I know I need to get over this, but the essence of comedy is spontaneity to me, and saying the same thing twice, and then night after night felt weird, and it felt like insincere or something. It felt like it was cheating. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I mean...
We all feel that.
I know. I mean, you get over it. I couldn't get over it. Like, I couldn't figure it out. Like,
This may have something to do with why the auditions weren't going well.
probably not.
You need to repeat things.
I think that's.
In
I
order
think
to-
that's. I know, and I couldn't. I always felt bad. Like I always felt like I was going to go, oh man, my girlfriend just dumped me, and then some waitress was going to go, you said that last night, you know, and
Welcome to my house.
it was weird. And so to me, like if you think about the essence of comedy, it's about...
But it's also acting. I mean, by take 3, acting in a movie or whatever, I can hear myself acting. I no longer feel like it's real. That's
Right.
my job, is to somehow make this moment real. And
Right.
it only takes a couple of takes before it's just screaming in my head, you just said this, you idiot.
The acting I can handle. Like for some reason I understand the acting,
The
and the
repetitiveness
plays,
of
and yeah, and you know we need another take.
But being
and
on
we're gonna
stage
swing
live
around.
when it's supposed to be your voice and your words and your thoughts, the idea of repeating them feels incredibly false.
And you're doing a lot of that. You know what happened to me tonight on the way to the club and that kind of stuff. And I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. And it never
Because
felt,
what you're doing
never
on your
felt right.
podcast, the spontaneous nature of that, if you were to do that live on stage, people would pretty much shit themselves.
Would they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, in fact, my I'm not just saying this because he's in the room, but my second guest here today, Dana Carvey, over the years, while having to do set pieces, would make his shows spontaneous by finding things that are happening and commenting back on things that happened earlier. There's certainly a way to do it, is all I'm suggesting.
well, you know, we did a thing when I used to do radio, which is what can Adam complain about?
Okay.
And people would toss out things like kittens or pillows
E.T.
or oral sex or E.T. or whatever, and I would figure out a way to complain about whatever it was. And maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe we'll do a live What Can Adam Complain About? But yeah, maybe I'll try it if I can do some improv or something like that. Anyway, it's a great craft and all
So you
that.
did it
Don't
a
get me
couple
wrong.
times, and you said this is enough.
You know what? It was one of these things where I kept. You know what it was? It was much like probably like Ellen DeGeneres when she tried to be with men. She kept trying. It felt like the thing to do. Everyone else was doing it, but it just didn't take.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm making a joke here, but not really. Like a lot of people, you grow up in the Midwest. Your parents are together. They're God-fearing, and at some point you realize you're gay. But you go, wait a minute, I can't be gay.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
So you start dating.
Right.
And then you start sleeping with guys, you start sleeping with, whatever the opposite and whatever. And sometimes you even get married. And then at some point you realize this isn't working. And everyone wants you to do that. And everyone says this is the key to happiness and this is what you should be doing. And so for me in stand-up, the reason I bring up Ellen and her sexual proclivities.
I think she and I are both very pleased that you're able to come back around to the point.
I felt like everyone was telling me, this is what you should be doing. You're funny. You should do stand-up. You can make money doing this. And I kept going, I just want to suck some cock.
Let's go to the phones.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, of course. No, I know what you mean.
Right.
What? What do you mean? Why would I know what you mean?
No, but you know
what I mean.
You just
said that. I like to suck cock. You know what I mean.
I was a gay man trapped in a comedian's body.
No, I think you brought it home. I think you brought it home. I think everybody's pleased.
I've done enough.
And the analogy was actually fantastic, as well as the button. I didn't mean to step on it, and I'm sorry.
I should have said eat pussy.
No. Much better.
No, see, because then I would have been Ellen.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, no, I mean, you guys know what I mean. She felt trapped.
Adam, I got news for you. Everyone knows what you mean.
Okay, all right.
You don't have to drive past this one.
All right.
And circle back around. At Joe NFL wants to know if PG comedy harder than R-rated comedy. That's an interesting thing. I remember coming up in the days when Cosby was sort of the master storyteller who felt as though profanity was the tool of a weakling and had nothing to do with his art form. And I remember Eddie Murphy making a big deal about getting a phone, in his act, did a bit about getting an actual phone call from Cosby saying, "Why are you swearing?
Right.
You're funnier than that." And then, of course, life evolves and thoughts evolve and censorship evolves and
Sure.
7 dirty words you can say pretty much anywhere now. Yeah, what?
Well, I'd like to talk about Crosby, Kathy Lee. She told me many years ago.
Did I say Crosby?
No.
Okay.
I just modified it. You know, I like it both ways. Like.
Oh, we made that clear moments ago.
Well, I mean, there's this weird thing where, you know, I did Dancing with the Stars, and everyone,
we're getting to that, buddy.
Everyone said, "What are you going to do? This is prime time. This is network. You know, you're filthy. How you gonna get away with what you do in this venue?" Because normally I was working late night radio, and I was in something called Safe Harbor, which is say what you want. It's after 10 o'clock, and you're with a doctor.
But you did morning radio in Los Angeles for so long, right before Dancing with the Stars. That's,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
you
even-
would train
even-
yourself
even-
not to, is my point.
Yeah, I mean, well, you stay away from the shits and the F-bombs and all that kind of stuff, but it's still not prime time,
Yes.
you know, ABC. And I thought it was a challenge, you know, to go ahead and almost like performing for kids or something. Like,
Yes.
how do you be funny
Yeah.
and not offend these 9-year-olds?
Also, when it's part of your own sensibility, it's part of your own sense of humor. It's the things that when you think funny thoughts, they involve not so PG.
Right,
you know?
like my Ellen analogy from
But
moments
honestly,
ago.
it's about free expression at some point, right?
Yeah.
Your sense of humor.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I mean, I just think wherever you are,
Yeah.
it has you have to have a version of yourself that does clubs.
Yes.
A version of yourself that does Dancing with the Stars.
Yes.
A version of yourself which does morning radio, which would be somewhere right in between Dancing with the Stars and doing clubs.
Right.
And a version of yourself that does bachelor parties when you're making a drunken toast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you just have to know where you are, but you're still allowed to be funny. And I sort of like the rules. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like we
is a
have
challenge.
that, but I mean, like if you're playing tennis, like what if you're playing tennis and there was no lines, and you just hit the ball as far as you wanted and went, well, score one for me? It would get boring after a while.
Yeah.
You're supposed to hit it right before the line.
Yeah.
And it makes it a challenge.
Yeah. Now, those tools come in handy every now and then too. I mean, for corporate gigs, every now and then I'll show up, and there'll be a couple of 10-year-olds in the front, and it's like, really? No one told me the 10-year-olds would be there, and it just changes the dynamic of everything.
Yeah,
and not necessarily the.
You do like Herbalife and drop a few C-bombs, and you're out of there. They're not signing you up next year.
Well,
no, I agree, and I think, I mean, cussing is funny and scat humor is funny, but I do feel like at a certain point, some of the R movies that are out and have been out over the last few years sort of fall back on it. It becomes a little bit of a crutch, not quite a stroke cane, but a crutch. You know what a stroke cane is?
I do, and I'm glad you brought it up.
It stands up by itself.
Yeah.
And I argue that's not a cane. You know, if you can take it and remove your hand and it doesn't fall over,
It's not a cane?
It's not a cane.
Really?
It's a walker now.
Okay, it's a one-handed walker.
So one of the things that defines cane is you have to be able to let it go and
know?
it must fall over.
I'm telling you, when this is played back between the construction lingo,
Yeah.
which is clearly endless,
Endless
for
for
you
me.
in terms of
Endless
vocabulary,
for me.
and now the rules to the cane.
Here's the two
As you
things.
lay
Either
them.
you have to be able to let it go and it falls over, or you have to be able to pull a sword out of it.
All right.
Has anyone ever pulled a sword out of a stroke cane?
No.
That would be badass,
No.
though.
And
Wouldn't
also
it? Like,
there's no
wow,
way-
look at that. The guy's, that old timer, he still moves pretty good.
There's no way for the stroke cane also to be a flask, I don't think.
No, you could do that with a cane, yeah.
The guy in
Although I would argue more potential
In
to
the-
hold liquor because
the
you have the
stroke
four
cane.
little legs. That,
the guy in the movie Up, he's got the stroke cane. Now,
Oh, does
now
he?
that I think of it. Yeah, I was just thinking it was a cane, but now that you've beaten it out of me, it's a stroke cane. And
you said Asner was good in that.
yeah, he was.
How does that work? Like, does someone knocks on his door and is like, Ed, we got a role for you. Get the fuck out of here. Seriously, we have a job for you. Get lost. I'm not doing a Mary Tyler Moore reunion. No, it's a regular job. Get the hell out of here.
I showed I could be funny and serious. Fuck
Yeah.
off. Yeah. No, I think we were talking about it last night, actually, with our friends Adam and Amber, who were just on the other side of that wall. Damn it, I feel this is so wrong with them not being in the room. But we were at the Up, and as we were walking out, that was one of the first things we were talking about was, do we think it was an offer to Ed? Did Ed go in and there were a half dozen other Ed Asner types in the room?
Yeah, right.
Oh, and how did he feel about this job coming out of literally the thin blue air? Because it's been a while.
They probably offered him scale, and he was like, screw that. And they're like, we got Brimley on speed dial.
And he's not going to do diabetes commercials forever.
No,
Yeah.
no.
From the chat room, Stan and Ollie has a little tweet 5 for you. And now, are you familiar with the tweet 5? It's basically rapid fire.
Dave Brubeck, right? Is that Dave Brubeck song?
You're not wrong.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
It's 5 rapid fire
Sure.
questions. And here you go. Dr. Drew or Dr. Ruth?
Drew.
Boxing or hockey?
Boxing.
Carvey or Myers? Tough one.
Carvey. Wait, who's behind me?
Which one's behind me? Elvis or the Beatles?
Oh, Beatles.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy.
Yeah,
That's it?
Stan and Ollie work a little harder. I'm going to put that out.
Really, yeah.
I'm going to put that out there. That was
Yeah.
slightly fully loaded, or front loaded. Well, here's the thing. They mentioned the hockey. So, because I grew up in Northern California long before the Sharks.
Right.
And after the Seals, I think were a team there for about 9 minutes.
Really?
I had no hockey in my life either.
Large black men with facial scarring or another seal?
Believe it or
they're
not,
going to the animal.
there was a team, a hockey team called the Seals. Weren't there?
It's a shitty
Yeah.
name.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a shitty name for a hockey
As opposed to
team.
the Penguins, which makes sense because
Well, yeah.
there's ice.
Yeah.
And technically speaking.
Yeah.
So in NoHo, I'm guessing there was no hockey talk either.
No, there wasn't. I mean, we didn't even barely had soccer. It didn't really exist back then.
Yeah, that's true. That's
And
true.
also,
There's a generation after us that started playing soccer.
it's a pretty good example, though. Like, should I look into this camera and give this advice?
I'd like to sit back and watch that
Okay,
happen.
your kid is probably going to suck at sports. So pick a sport that's not played at the school, and then the kid will be a superstar. We had a kid at our school, and his name was Jeff Katz, and I'm sure he wasn't much good at hockey, but he was the only guy in the entire school that played hockey. And he had his own hockey bag, and it had all the Jofa stuff in it, the pads and everything. And he just would regale us with stories about hat tricks and, icing and crossing the blue line. And we had no choice but to believe he was the greatest hockey player in all of North Hollywood. And if someone would said to me, who's the greatest hockey player you've ever heard of, I would have said Jeff Katz. Now, if he had played football or baseball or any other sports that we played, we
Right.
would have known he sucked at it because we played those sports and it went on. This was a weird thing where they had to drive to like Conejo, and you'd have to go early on a Saturday morning, and you'd have to provide your own equipment.
Right.
And we knew nothing of it. So
Right. Probably the only guy you knew who ice skated to begin with.
I wasn't familiar with ice.
Right.
I was like, I know it comes in cubes. What do you
Right.
guys just stuff them all together and then ride on them? No, it was like
So you had refused to acknowledge what had been going on as a sport for many, many years.
North Hollywood. We
Yeah.
we had the Kings, but no one really followed them, and that was it. We had football, baseball, and Smear the Queer, which was actually Smear the Queer was actually bigger than hockey.
I think for good reason.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and we
when
didn't
you
mean-
do the math.
Yeah.
And especially the queers that went to your school.
Yeah, no, you didn't have to be gay to be queer. You drop the handball or whatever it was, and you'd be smeared.
And you'd be smeared.
Yeah,
That's
that's how it worked.
That's
Yeah,
a
we had Smear
fantastic
the
game. So
Queer,
really
yeah.
it's Smear the Wussy, the one who can't keep up or whatever. it
Yeah,
is.
we didn't mean it. I think that's
It wasn't
the
gay
problem.
bashing. It wasn't homophobic. It
No,
was
but
about
it's
taking
always-
on the weak kid.
It's weird if you have any gay friends where you go like, oh, I'm not going to horseback riding. That's so gay. And then they go, what? Gay? And then you go, no, I don't mean gay like homosexual. I mean gay like bad, lame, retarded.
I
And they go,
I mean gay like retarded.
yeah, and they go, well,
I don't mean retarded. I mean
that's an insult too.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes, it certainly is.
Like I'm saying that sweater's so gay. I don't mean it sucks dick. I mean it looks, it's stupid looking.
I'm not saying the sweater wants cock in it.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
I got it.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's any more cock talk on from We got. This is a nice tweet 5 from Eric at Eric.
Hey, can I just say this real quick with
Please.
sweaters? I never thought about this before, but we have the V-neck sweater. It makes a V. It's a letter. The V-neck
the V-neck sweater, sure.
But then the other one's just called a crew neck.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be called an O-neck?
Well,
we are on the alphabet, are we not?
With the V?
And it's the shape of that letter, right?
Sure. I'm not sure why they picked crew to represent the O.
Yeah.
Makes no
sense.
sense.
Should be an O-neck. Write that down. And the other thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get, the pool game, Marco Polo?
A gay retarded game?
Yeah, Marco Polo.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get it changed to Adam Carolla.
Adam
Corolla, because I don't feel like kids know who Marco Polo is. Like, they're not like, oh, he opened up the spice trade, didn't he? Like, nobody knows who Marco Polo is, so that's confusing. I feel like I'm more relevant. Besides, the guy had a good run.
He did.
He had like 500 years worth
Celebrated
of Marco Polo.
way beyond his time. I'm sure when I was a kid, I was not the only one in the pool who had no fucking clue who Marco Polo actually was.
Right.
And that was 50 years ago.
All right. So what a Adam.
Corolla.
Fish out of water,
Yeah. If there's any way I can help to promote
Well,
this.
do you have kids?
I believe I've seen children.
All right. Well, next time, this summer when they hit the pool
Right.
and they start with the Marco Polo, you can.
Hey, kids, what are you doing? What's the matter with you with the Marco Polo? Do you even know who that is?
I think
But you know who Adam Carolla is, don't you? He's got a podcast. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no reason it can't catch on.
Right.
Seriously, there's no reason.
Does
if you
anyone-
believe in it enough.
Everyone knows the name Marco Polo, but for all we know, he was like an alcoholic racist, right? I mean,
I actually didn't know that part of him.
Well, I'm assuming he was.
Because he opened up the spice trade?
Listen, he sailed and he was white. And it was like, 1622. I mean, if you're white, you're racist, and 16, whatever, you have a handful of slaves, right?
Uh-huh.
And if you're in the open sea for more than 6 months at a time,
You drink it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or back to cock.
Right.
Yeah, we brought ourselves back to cock. At Eric is... No? Yes? Eric is tired. At Eric is tired. I bet he writes for
okay.
himself. I got a guy who tweets for me. All right, tweet 5. Ready? Drew or Kimmel?
Oh.
See? All right.
Now,
Not so easy.
Now, this is lovemaking, or this is because Drew wears.
This is all going in your permanent record. I hope
wears
you
the
realize
glove.
that.
I'll go Kimmel. He's funny. Drew's not funny.
He's very dry.
Yeah.
Speaking of dry, wine or beer? Like I have to ask that question.
I like beer, but I got to say I've been getting into wine.
What kind?
I like Pinot Noir. By the way,
Same here.
You
That's
do
our
too?
brand.
You know
yeah.
what pissed me off the other night?
Please tell me.
My wife buys me a case of wine.
That's a commitment.
Yeah, well, I mean, and by the way, you're starting to accumulate, the wine when you just start buying it by the case. And she bought me a case, but she didn't buy me the Pinot Noir. She bought me like a Cabernet. And then I said to her, hey, why the cab? And she said, yeah, why not? I said, but I drink the Pinot Noir. And she went like, what are you going to do? And I thought, what the fuck, really? Can't even pretend? Like, just say they were out of it, or I thought about it, or the kids started crying, or I panicked, or there was a holdup at the Trader Joe's or something. Don't give me the, I don't give a shit answer.
So her remembering that my husband has started to drink more red wine now, and he seems to really like it, so I'm going to stop and get him a case, even though he hasn't asked me to. That wasn't enough for you.
No.
It was you left out the specifics of the Pinot Noir, and you know what? Go fuck yourself.
Well, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Eric is tired. Tweet 5. Drew or Kimmel, we got that. Beer or wine, we got the answer there. Pancakes or waffles, not always an easy choice. But for you?
I like pancakes, but the waffles hold the syrup. There's a bunch of little reservoirs.
That's what they are,
for
really.
Syrup.
They're syrup reservoirs.
But and also you can kind of decorate the waffle, with the smiley face and the stuff. And then there's German waffles and Belgium waffles and all that. I like the waffle. I like when you go to the waffle bar. You ever go to the waffle bar?
What are you talking about?
Like when you go to a nice buffet.
Oh, sure.
And there's the one
brunch.
guy who's working the waffle bar and he flips the brunch thing over.
Do you
and
have a
does the
waffle
thing.
maker at home?
No.
This is the thing that fascinates me. A person who loves waffles, because I'm the same,
Yeah.
refuses to have one at home, refuses to make them for themselves, even though I'm sure there's cooking going on in your house.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And the one fabulous thing in your Epicurean choice of waffles, can't get it at home.
Too heavy.
The waffle?
Yeah, it's in my car. I can't move it from the trunk into the house. There's waffle. There's no. It weighs like as much as 128 toasters. You ever try to lift a waffle? You need a pallet jack and a couple Mexicans, and we're doing it like we're building a pyramid.
Isn't
like
it one
we're
of the other?
dragging it. It's halfway to my front door. I got it 6 years ago. It moves about 4 inches. We move it like they move the space shuttle on those tractors out at the launch pad. Yeah, they're too heavy. You got to lift them up. If it falls over, it'll take a hand off.
I wasn't looking for this much of a thorough answer.
And I got to be honest. They've kind of perfected the frozen waffle. You know what I mean? I mean
the toaster?
Yeah, the toaster waffles. It's pretty good.
Push a button.
It's pretty good.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Same reservoirs.
Yeah.
Just smaller.
Yeah, and the waffle maker weighs 128 pounds, and you can't keep it out because it's the size of 2 cinder blocks, and it takes up the whole kitchen. And you're not making waffles every morning. You do it once in a while. So you put the waffle maker away, and then you need. You need a cherry picker to get the thing up and drop it down on the counter, and it crushes the island.
And there's still a couple of Mexicans there, right?
It's too much. Oh yeah, those guys are definitely helping that thing along. Yeah.
Now you said you had a thing on your show where what doesn't piss Adam off?
What can't Adam complain about?
What can't Adam complain about?
Right.
That's on your podcast.
Yeah, because I complain about everything.
Well, this is my point that I was going to get at. Mm-hmm. But let's finish this up first, so to not disappoint. East Coast, West Coast?
I don't. Here's what I don't like.
Yeah. Well,
I don't like either one of them. Here's the thing. I don't like assholes from New York explaining, hey, don't mess with me, I'm from New York.
Right.
I don't like that guy. There's a ton of those a-holes in L.A. Right. And by the way, you left New York when you were 8. Really? Can you take off the fucking Mets uniform? You're 47 now. You have a thick Brooklyn accent. You give me the don't mess with me. Like, you're streetwise. Your dad was a fucking podiatrist, and you left Manhattan at age 8 and you moved to Encino. Don't give me the street like you're in the fucking Warriors, that guy. So I fucking hate, hey, don't mess with me. Hey, I'm from New York. Hey, you can't get good pizza. Hey. I hate that guy.
Sure.
But New York, it's like everyone's living on top of each other. I mean, you seen what $5 million gets you over there? Like no windows, no backyard.
Yeah.
You can't even.
No portal from your bar to the pool, I can tell you that.
Portal to the pool. No. Yes, you can see your nephew swim in the.
Easy.
The hot ladies.
This is weird.
Swim.
But
so I don't like. Listen, I don't like either one of them. But here's what it is. Here's what I do want to say. Okay. All right. Here's what I'm saying.
Have you focused your thoughts?
I focused it. I work in L.A.
Yes.
and everyone from L.A., especially in show business, is from somewhere. Yes. Mostly Boston and New York. And they come out here and they're wearing their Patriots jerseys and their Tom Brady hats, and they're all Red Sox fans, and they're all Yankees fans and Mets fans and Giants fans, and they never fucking give it a break. It's just nonstop Pats talking all the time. And I say to them this. If I moved to Boston in my Rams jersey, like I was just wearing my Merlin Olsen jersey, my throwback jersey, and never stopped talking about the Los Angeles Rams or the Lakers, how fast would you guys kick my ass?
Yeah.
How old would it get?
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. You've all been out here, by the way. None of you just arrived. You've been out
25 years.
Here's the rule. When you've been here longer than you were there, shut the fuck up.
That's not a bad rule.
Most of you guys are in your 40s now. You got here when you're in your early 20s.
Right.
I'm doing the math. We just crossed the Mason-Dixon. You're now into Los Angeles. Shut up about your Boston sports.
I think that's an easier win than the Marco Polo becoming Adam Carolla. I think that rule going into law.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
All the Pittsburgh fans.
Way easy now.
I know. But everyone here's from, it's all Pittsburgh, Boston, and
now
New
you're
York.
going to throw Pittsburgh in the ring.
Well, look, they're better people, but you're here because your town sucks.
Well,
I mean, let's be honest.
I'm not sure that's why people move here, because they're
listen, we're not having this conversation in Beaver Falls.
You sure?
We're having it in fucking Encino, are we not?
Santa Monica,
So you do the math.
Yeah.
I didn't come to Pittsburgh and start talking to you about Los Angeles. You came to Los Angeles and started talking to me about Pittsburgh.
Right.
I don't know why you're not there, but we're here, so shut up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the point is valid and well articulated.
Thank you.
And I hope Eric is tired, feels better about himself. I want to talk about the podcast that you're doing.
Sure.
You were on. You were doing fantastically on the morning radio when Howard that whole thing shifted, and then you took over Los Angeles. Well, are those things must be measured by numbers? So you knew where you stood on a national level, but you were only in Los Angeles.
We were syndicated, but not onto the East Coast because you can't syndicate west to east because of the time difference.
Right.
You have to go east to west. But we were in Seattle and Phoenix and Vegas and Portland and places like that.
Yeah, and so you were doing swimmingly well in the eyes of the people who paid you to be there. They're not on trial.
I'm saying we did. No, honestly, we did pretty good we did great in all our affiliates. We were like #1 in Vegas and Seattle, a lot of places like that. And
LA's the hardest place in the world.
We did good in LA, moderate to good, but we didn't set LA on fire.
The morning numbers. I'm friends with Mark Thompson from Mark and Brian.
I thought you were going to say
friends with him forever, and so I know all about the morning game and the number of the LA morning radio numbers, and it's endless. It's
endless.
And I think the biggest numbers are still on the Spanish-speaking stations?
Yeah, although they're having to whack that, I was going to say pie, but burrito into thinner pieces now because there's more and more of them popping up. When there was just 1 or 2 Spanish-speaking stations, they had the whole thing.
Right.
Now there's more and more, so they're having to whack it up. K-Rock probably does the best. I don't know if K-Rock's #1 or Spanish-speaking is #1.
They're neck and neck. So while you were doing the morning radio here, had you already started doing a podcast of that?
No.
So you were just doing... So how soon after that the station changed formats and the whole Talk FM left 97.1?
We ended on a Friday and began the podcast on a Monday.
And just walk me through that step. Whose first idea was, well, fuck this, we'll just do it as
My
a podcast?
buddy Donnie said he's a computer guy, and he just said he's a editor, and he said this is the wave of the future, and this is what you got to do, and the internet, and blah blah blah. And I said, how do you do it? And he said, just buy a mixer down at Guitar Center for a couple $100, get a couple of microphones, plug it into your computer, and we'll go. And I said, fine, let's just do it. And we did it. And the one part that I wasn't aware of is I found a guy who worked on my radio show who was sort of the resident nerd on my radio show. And I said, well, how much does this cost? I mean, beside the microphones and the mixer and the computer, is there any cost? And he said, well, bandwidth. And I said, but how much does bandwidth cost? And he said, that's probably going to be like $300-400 a month.
Depends on how successful you are.
Well, he didn't say that. He just said he sized me up, and he said, probably about $300-400. He said, well, what do you got in your sofa?
Yeah.
And I said, he said about $300-400 a month, and I said, okay, I think we could do that. Now I'm out of a job, so the idea of paying to do radio when I was formerly getting paid. Now I'm still under contract, so I still get paid, so it's not that bad. But the idea of putting money out to do a radio show when money was coming in to do a radio show seemed awkward, but I was like, okay, $300-400 a month. I guess we could do that. Last month it was $9,000.
Is what it costs for the bandwidth.
Just the bandwidth. Right.
And what does that means? You have how many? Now that's because while it's streaming live.
No, it doesn't stream live.
Right.
It's just downloads.
Right.
And
so you have to be able to offer those downloads through.
I don't know anything other than the longer you go, and we go about an hour or so, but never longer than an hour, the more downloads you get, the more it costs.
Right.
And so we've been sort of building with the downloads, and thus it's been costing.
Right. But that only means in huge success it costs a shit ton of money.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. So if anyone wants to do it, the initial startup is next to nothing, and as long as you can remain anonymous, everything's fine. You can save a ton of dough.
Yeah, but as the #1 podcast, is that you've had that title now for a while?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, it fluctuates, and we're not always #1. We're always the #1 comedy one. We're not always #1 overall, but we're always like top 5 and all that. Yeah.
And so how soon after you being on the air did that ranking come about?
Pretty soon, like just a couple of days, really.
And That's pretty amazing. And did they share the kind of numbers that it takes in terms of downloads, or you're just looking at it costs $9,000 a month?
No,
that's how popular we are.
we have we get probably close to 1 million downloads a week.
Right.
Not quite, but pretty close to about 1 million downloads a week. And everyone says, "Ooh, wow!" But to me, it was just taking the radio audience and telling them, "Hey, I'm going to be off the air in a couple of days. So if you want to keep hearing me, just go over to adamcarolla.com and you can hear me over there." And that's what some of them did, I guess.
Right.
And I'm flattered, but it's weird because it's like if I get flattered anymore, I'll have to move into an apartment.
Right.
So it's like,
do you have sponsors?
No, it's all free.
The whole thing's free.
Everything's free.
Right. So you must have
a plan?
Well, because no, I mean, when people asked me when I started doing this, they said, "Well, how much is this going to cost you?" Same thing.
Well, what I have is I get paid from CBS Radio until the end of the year.
Right.
So I can't go off and now I can go off and do a musical, or I can go off and write a book. That doesn't really compete. But I can't go off and do something that resembles radio.
Or you can't take on a sponsor for what you're doing now.
Right. So I can't take on any sponsors. The plan is to be sort of, pound wise and penny foolish. I'll give away money for about 9 months. We'll build a big audience, and then come January 1st, when I get cut off from CBS, we'll bring in sponsors and start sponsoring the podcast.
I don't know that that's a wrong way to do it, to be honest with you, because I think what happens is certainly online, you've, I'm sure, discovered this, that it's all about the community in terms of your following, and it's always about in terms of downloads, when it's convenient for them to listen to the show. So the notion is it's not really an audition, it's this is the show, if you like it, eventually it's going to cost you $1.
Yeah.
But for now, here it is.
Well, there's subscriptions, and then there's advertisements. And the subscription part is tricky and insulting, because everyone says, like, you go, "Wow, man, we got 1 million downloads this week."
Right.
Imagine it if people just paid a dime a download, just a dime. Jesus, we'd make, what, $100,000 in a week? That'd be awesome. And then everyone goes, "Who's going to pay a dime for that?" And you go, "Well, I'm sitting right here. And you go, "All right, well, even if people just paid like $1 a month to hear my show," and everyone goes, whoa.
Don't go crazy on us. Yeah.
Whoa, listen.
Madman.
Yeah,
easy.
Elton John? $1 a month?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Just because 1 million people want to listen to you every week.
You're mildly amusing. But $1 a month? That's like a third of a cup of coffee a month. They hear your shit every day?
Clearly what they're saying is you're fabulously entertaining while you're free.
Right.
Yeah. If this costs anything, then you just suck.
It'd be like you going, "This is an awesome restaurant," until you found out that steak was $11, and then you would throw it at the chef and try to physically assault him.
Yeah.
What happened to the great steak you were enjoying moments earlier?
But I mean, there's been precedent set here. I remember being turned on to Ricky Gervais' podcast and thinking that was the funniest thing in the world. And he offered up the first series for free, and I think the next time it came around it was like 99 cents or whatever the hell it was, and everybody lined up and paid it.
They did?
Yeah.
Because I hear it's just like a massive drop-off.
Well, here's the deal. You're offering the show. You give people a chance to fall in love with it and become genuine fans of it.
Right.
And those who are willing to spend $1,
right.
Well,
there's sort of, the way they say to do it honestly is get some advertisers and just do live reads. Just incorporate them into your
I said from day one, I want to go back to television 1950. This hour brought to you by Colgate.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It's like you're just, Kevin's just sitting here, and then all of a sudden it's like...
Yeah. Yeah. I don't smoke, but if I did, this would be the one.
Smooth. Yeah. So that's the way to go.
Well,
live
instead
reads.
of a glass of water, it's a diet
You
pop.
could easily have a beef motto there.
I would like to have a Yinling so I could celebrate my Jamie's Pittsburgh Penguins. Do we have a score? Pens are up 1-0 on Detroit Red Wings. Woo-hoo!
So yeah, they say do that.
I'm sorry, it's
and,
about
they
you.
also say you can do like bonus content, where you can like charge people for extra whatever and all that kind of stuff. And then somebody said, although I don't know if it'd work or not, how about donations? How about like
I had Felicia Day on the show. She's got this web series called The Guild, and she put up a PayPal widget that you click if you want to help support the show. No different than sending in a check to PBS, really, but it's much easier because it's right there. And she basically did a couple episodes and said, we're dying to do a series of this. Does anybody want to help us? And the whole first season was funded by the audience.
So it's doable.
Yeah, especially if you make it that easy with the PayPal thing. Or you bring in a sponsor, which is another thing, as I said, this hour brought to you by Colgate, and I hate to keep plugging them, but it is, these are the options that I think are wide open to us.
How about the college, or you mean the toothpaste?
I do mean the college, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. And as we formulate this little network of ours, perhaps you'll give us a drive-by. You'll come by and maybe throw something up and see how it feels to you after January when your contract's up.
How much will it cost me?
It'll cost you less than $9,000 a month.
Wow.
That's a guarantee.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. You mean so I could broadcast for free?
Yeah. No.
It cost me something.
It would cost you a little. No, we'd get you a sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
All right.
Yeah. Well, that's what a network does. It looks after its shows. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd be.
Or you go ahead and keep spending the $9,000 a month and. No, I think what you've done, quite honestly, is pretty historical to go from the radio to the #1 podcast in a matter of months, and I think as well as anybody else, the fact that the guy that sized you up and said this is going to cost a couple $100 to last month cost me $9,000 is the same way of saying I am the big dick in this particular town. It means the same thing. In this case, it's costing you money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So congratulations.
Thanks, Kevin.
I guess is what I'm saying. Do you want to throw up a little Larry King game?
Sure.
Have you formulated any ideas? I can stall and buy
let's
you a
see.
little
So what are the rules?
Bad Larry King impression.
All right.
So you got to suck.
All right.
That's a winner.
Okay. All right. I can do that.
Reveal something about yourself as Larry King as if you were on the air, because you're going to do it into the camera there.
Okay.
When you do the Bad Larry King impression. So reveal something about yourself on the air. Oh, should I give you an example? Or no, because then it's a template.
Okay.
And then go to the phone, and if it's possible, the funny name of the town.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
When ready.
Coming up next, Tom Arnold, Maya Angelou, together again. I didn't know I had a son. Turns out he's older than I am. I don't know how that's possible, but he'll be up in our third segment. And Pueblo, Colorado, you're on the line.
Yes. It's just that simple.
Wow, thank you.
Does it feel like we've been chatting for an hour? Because that's yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough.
It's like 3 hours.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It really means a lot.
I had a great time. Anytime you want me back.
Please, you're welcome anytime.
He's all of the rainbows, but none of the rain. He's dry, but he's an alcoholic. He's hosting this train wreck again and again. And he wears a hat he's carrying.